pirates. Her life flashes before her eyes and all of her rises as if from a nightmare. Her central heart and 8 secondary hearts all beating in a familiar but fast rhythm. She reaches out to find out why it's so dark, and her hand freezes. Kutha bolted to cloth. Retention bands. Oh no. The retention band are all removed and Moira is instantly looking in 8 different directions. She lets out a humming sound and realizes that her voice has gone up in pitch. She's considerably younger, which meant that nightmare of waking up so lessened was real. The room she's in has soft and unobtrusive lighting and a clear bin for the retention bands. They all go in there and she takes the time to examine all of herself. She's lost at least 2 meters of tail length though in this regeneration. She goes into the rhythmic breath meditations, synchronizing her inhaling from each body and her main body so that there's air being expelled constantly from the gills in a steady and smooth pace. This hyper-oxygenates her blood, wakes her up, and calms her down all at once. Her situation is completely untenable. She had read stories and listened to theories about what to do if you were to find yourself waking up out of stasis in an unfamiliar epoch. The flow of air through her massive body grows sterner as she tries to find a solution to the problem. She doubts any of the comments or plans that her coworkers had brought up would work. No doubt the bank accounts she had were liquidated and she was declared dead, meaning that even if her family had lived this long, they had long moved on. Her showing up destitute out of nowhere was just more trouble for them. And she'd been enough trouble to her family as a little girl. Before she can even consider a proper route or course of action, she hears something in the stillness. The gait of an alien. Something with padded feet and claws. She can hear them click gently on the deck plating. Her eyes open as whoever is approaching reaches the door to this small recovery room, and she beholds a Lopen woman prowling in. She then rises up and meets Moira's gaze. Gray fur with clear scarring underneath. Fancy clothing. A huge mane of blonde hair, and at least 3 weapons on her person. She had the more lithe and powerful shape of a woman who had given birth since her last regeneration, less attracting a mate and more defending one. Come to think of it, that doctor was also fairly lithe. How are you feeling? The Lopen asks her, and Moira just blinks. Numb? That's a good word for it. Moira agrees. Yes, I'm familiar with that, the Lopen says. Oh, really? So you know what it's like to realize that the unimaginable nightmare you thought you were waking up from was completely real and everything you knew and loved is dead and gone? Yes, I do. The Lopen answers and scowls at Moira's scoff. It was a few hundred years ago, a group of particularly sadistic adepts learned how to mass force behaviors on civilian populations. I wasn't very old at the time. I was at the giggly, innocent, and gossipy girl stage of my life. They got me, they got my family, my neighborhood, and pretty much my entire home planet. Then they made us destroy it. They made us cull one another. They made us thin our own ranks, slaughtering our own family and friends until only the strongest were left, and then they used us to do the same thing to world after world of innocent people. Moira can only stare at her. That's the sort of thing that breaks a girl, and I broke completely. It wasn't until a few months ago I was able to stop running, fighting, and cutting dark deals with awful people. Even though that cult of mad women was long dead, the Lopen says, and Moira just keeps staring. Now, I know your name, Moira Octalary. I also know that your old rank is gone, as the Unrelenting Legion is not only long disbanded, but declared a criminal group. I am Duchess Agenda Lilpa. I rule Vuxa 5. I was once merely a pirate captain until opportunity knocked. Before that, I was a victim of the Dark Cabal pirates that forced me to bombard my own homeworld with orbital lasers. So yes, I know what it's like to wake up from a nightmare only to find out it was all true. What do you want? Moira changes the uncomfortable topic. I want to know just what the hell was going on down in that base. We've uncovered expired chemicals, dead experiments, some slagged equipment, and a lot of data that shows every sign of it being tampered with. You're the only untainted or untampered with source of information we have of whatever shitshow that was. Agenda says, and Moira sighs. All right, I was just a grunt, a bodyguard, leg breaker, and muscle, but if you didn't know at least the general shape of what was going on down there, If not some very interesting details, then I'll eat my own crown. Now spill. Agenda orders. Very well. We were part of a super soldier experiment. On the way here, we picked up samples from several extinct races. Step 1 was to back-engineer genetic relatives of these ancient monsters into authentic versions. I saw this succeed with my own eyes. Deep sea serpents from this world, blade-scale sharks from another world, something called an ambush lizard from yet another, and finally toxic slam frogs again from an unknown world. Did you never learn what worlds they were from? No, never. They were referred to as Sites 1, 2, and 3, with this world being Site 4. Moira says, "What did you recover out of the lab?" "All the chemicals left over are long expired. Everything in preserving fluid is still viable. If disturbing to look at, we found..." "Brace yourself now." "That bad?" Moira asks in a despairing tone. "Yes, there's awful news." Agenda says, and Moira takes a deep breath. "Give it to me," she orders. "We found your dismembered bodies. All of them were either used for or in storage for use as an experiment in splicing a Lidris with one of the other creatures. The one in storage was in stasis in the same room as revived variants of the local serpents. She was eaten." Agenda says, and Moira holds her breath and tires to sort of crunch down on herself. Tries to press through the feeling of her veins and hearts turning to coldstone. "Did the experiments survive?" Moira asks slowly. "Only one did," Agenda says, and Moira lets out the rest of the breath before sucking in the air deeply. She goes out of sync with the rest of her body for a few moments before calming down. "And in what condition is the survivor?" "She was reduced to an infant state. She's genetically related to you, but isn't you at all," Agenda says. "What is she?" "A Lidris toxic slam frog hybrid. Just getting into contact with her nearly killed one of my people. She wasn't even trying to hurt him, just go through his pockets for a snack. Those things hunt by tackling their prey and then waiting for them to start vomiting blood before swallowing them whole," Moira says. "Yes, she has that instinct," Agenda confirms. "Has she killed anyone?" "No, but it was a near thing. If Lu Sun wasn't as absurdly toxin-resistant as he is, then it's unlikely he would have made it," Agenda says. "In truth, it was a lot closer than any of us thought. He's had a short healing coma as he ended up internally bleeding to a small extent. Thankfully, humans are extremely hardy as a species." "I see. What's going to be done with her?" Moira asks. "Last I saw, one of my doctors was having quite the time getting a literally and metaphorically slippery child to wear something. This is made all the harder as Dr. Lena cannot actually touch her patient without risking her life. So her skills as a medical adept is getting quite the workout." Agenda answers. "I see. I take it from the fact you're trying to dress her and that you're answering my questions that there's not going to be a plasma blast to my base and the cooling meat dropped off in the territory of some bone-crunching scavengers. My dear, when we get a fully trained soldier with a huge amount of physical and mental resilience fall into our lap, we don't throw it out. Much the same as the little girl. A tiny child or not, she has the potential to be an incredibly dangerous woman. I like that. I want that. I want my duchy to be so dangerous to visit, let alone attack, that the very idea of invasion becomes laughable." "What? You're strong. I like strong and want strong. Do you want someplace to belong?" Agenda asks, and Moira huffs in amusement at the rhyme. "What will be expected of me and my child?" Moira asks. "You're claiming the child?" Agenda asks. "I have no one else." "Very well. Before I answer that, though, there's a bit of official detail. That being, Lu Sun gave her a name, but you have precedence in naming her." "What's the name?" Moira asks. Then over a half-dozen eyebrows go up as Agenda pulls out a communicator and then plays a file back. "Liu Shu," the communicator says. "Liu Shu?" Moira asks in a baffled tone. "No, it's..." Agenda replies before playing back the recording. "What language is that?" Moira asks. "Is it an AKA language?" "It's called Chinese, from a world in cruel space." "Cruel space? You're joking." "No, it turns out life can exist without access to Axiom. It just takes a very, very long time to get anywhere. They're super aggressive, robust, and strong treads. Currently, the only ones that have left the homeworld are insanely well-trained and chaotic soldiers. So much so that they recruited my pirate crew, out-crazied us, and then tamed us. I'm not even mad. They stopped us from being criminals by making US the law. It's downright surreal. And what will they do with me? Oh no, they're not the ones dealing with you. I am, Agenda says. This isn't the first time I've found a girl drowning in the deepest pit she's ever found. It's where I find my most dependable girls. Oh yes. Jin, Mercy, Mabby, and more. Those girls are family. You want to give it a try? Agenda asks, holding out a hand for Moira to take. After a moment, Agenda's entire extended arm is grabbed onto, once by each of Moira's bodies. If you think you can pull me out of this hell, then yank away. Anywhere is better than this pit. How does a knighthood sound? Agenda asks, and Moira stares. What? Granted, the title is mostly so that you're even more reluctant to leave. But the thing that Admiral Cistern taught me really well is that the best chains are ones people not only want to wear, but hate to see broken, Agenda says. After all, coercion wears off, blackmail grows stale, and fear rots. Admiration and appreciation are finicky, but enduring. And the girl Lu Shu, she says, trying to get the name right. It translates to willow, apparently, a type of swaying tree that has the same kind of chemicals that can be made into something like her poison. Oh, Liu Shu, willow octallary. That's actually nice. Although a lot will try to use willow instead. Unless that one's also demanding on the tone and pronunciation. You've gotten willow right from what I understand, Agenda says. Now, if you're game to... The door opens again and Moira turns to regard the copper-haired tread. No, the human she had seen in the complex before. The Axiom Adept. I hope this is important, Agenda says, and Franklin tosses a necklace at her that she catches and holds up to examine. It's a hollow circle of tritite with a collection of kutha wire forming a spiderweb-like pattern in it. It thrums with strangely twisting power as it hangs off a chain of simple stainless steel. It works. So long as you wear something like this, then the kid's personal brand of contact poison doesn't work. It also lets you know if you're covered in any, Franklin says. Why did you use tritite in it? Moira asks. She has never heard of an axiom totem that uses tritite. Tritite resists axiom. Why would anyone use it? It's a perfect axiom resistor. It was a flash of insight. It lets you use a fraction of the kutha you normally need by separating it all and keeping each little aspect clean and clear and letting you define it without any unintended overlap. Franklin explains, and Agenda tosses the amulet back at him. It's too fragile. Find a way to reinforce this thing. As it is, the little girl could grab at the wires, pull them out of place, and suddenly you're covered in a deadly poison and good as dead. Agenda orders, and Franklin blinks for a moment before sucking in a breath as his expression goes into a shocked state. Right! Shit, I didn't even think of that! Franklin exclaims before rushing out of the room. Is he always like that? Yes, Agenda says. But that's more good news. Deadly or not, your little girl is going to get all the hugs she needs to grow up as something other than a psychopath. Yes. Now, back to the secret lab you worked in. Could you list off all the doctors that worked there? Oh, certainly Dr. Fennell was one. She was a skilled biologist that made it possible to alter the eggs of modern animals to produce their ancient cousins and give the whole lab something to work with.